Welcome to your Magical Life podcast.
A sacred space to explore, create, and manifest more magic into your daily life.
I'm Crystal, homeschool mom to 2 wildlings and lover of all things witchy and magical.
And I'm Ash, your resident art witch and priestess, helping you trust your intuition through art and divination.
Hey, Ash, how are you today?
I'm good. I've still got this insane winter cough, but overall, the morning is starting reasonably well. How are you?
That's good. That's good. Yeah, winter. It is winter. Here we are at our Yule episode, which is winter solstice. And it is the middle of winter. We are approaching the darkest night of the year. And I'm doing well. It has been, I swear, time is flying. We just recorded Samhain. It was Samhain. We dressed up. Halloween happened. And now we're at Yule. I don't even know what happened with the time. It's just been going by so fast. And I actually would really love it to slow down.
Well, that is what this time of year is supposed to be about, technically, is slowing down, hibernating in our houses, and not doing all of the things. But of course, with kids and families and everything and holidays, we won't really slow down until next month.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I wish that we could all be a little bit more nature driven, a little bit more in sync with this, because I feel like everybody gets burnt out at this time because with all the consumerism and all the go and holidays, like you said, kids, responsibilities, dinners, festivities, and it's not just one night. It's not just Christmas or it's not just Yule. It like turns into 15 different holiday parties that you're going to, and not just Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving now. It's just everything seems to multiply by how much and how busy we are. And whereas nature, like you said, so many animals go into hibernation. The trees also, shed their leaves. They conserve their energy. They have a time of rest so that when it is spring, they have the energy for spring. Humans are on this go train. And I feel like, we never get to rest.
Yeah, it like every year, and I don't know if it's just the difference between being a kid and being an adult, or if it's like just this time in history and space, but seems way more chaotic. Like I've had stuff every day this week for either school or my things, or there's something going on like every day from now until January.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is crazy. And actually, it's so interesting you said whether, it's us being adults or not, with childhood, because, there is the magic of the season. And I think us adults are really trying to create that magic, for the kids and everything like that and for ourselves. And I love that everyone, whether you're pagan, Christian, whatever, like everyone's okay with saying like, we're making magic. We're, creating these, things to believe in, these traditions. And I love that it's more widespread.
I'm a Grinch when it comes to Christmas. I like Yule. I like the nature-based portions of it, but when it comes to the consumerism and walking into any store right this time of year is just way overwhelming and saddening to me.
Oh,
So maybe it's not so much that I'm a Grinch, it's just that I don't want to have to deal with all of those things. But yeah, the magic of the season is harder to find. Like the more that I get connected to the pagan roots or the seasonal roots, somehow it's harder to find the magic. But I think that might
mm,
also just be the difference between being the kid in the relationship and then being
mm,
the adult taking
right.
care of the kid.
Well, this is a great point to talk about Yule then, I feel like. So where it came from, when it started, what are the nature-based roots and the differences, because it's so close to Christmas, and actually the Christians were the ones who kind of adopted, as with many of the holidays, we found Ostara and Easter. So we there's always been a midwinter festival. And I feel like what I researched and read was that it started in the Norse, Norway, Sweden, places like that. And before Christianity, it was Yule or Jule, which is one of Odin's names, although some of it is related to Thor as well. But there's a lot of Norse mythology and Norse traditions related to Yule, like the 12 nights of Christmas, like the first night of Christmas, the whole song. Originally, I'm not going to sing it for everybody. It's okay. um, the
Come on.
original 12 days started with the 12 days of Yule. And Yule, they each day stood for a certain deity or a certain thing that you wanted to bring in or let go as we transitioned, because they felt that this 12 days, you were neither in the previous year nor in the next year. So it's kind of that in between zone. And I feel like I've also read that this is very related to the tarot death card. This is the death of the Sun King, where the sun deity or whatever completely dies. But don't worry, they'll come back, to be reborn again, because that's what death is all about in the next year. But the Winter King has finally risen. And so it can kind of be a bit of a dangerous time too, because a lot of the dark spirits or evil, in quotes, is out because the sun is completely gone and not there to protect us all. And so
Yeah.
that's why a huge part of it is fire, bringing in that light and recognizing that this darkest night, this is the longest night of the year. But at dawn, we start inching the other way. And now the light starts to return.
And you have that like liminal space, like so many of the other holidays or sabbats, where like, one set of gods is going out and another is coming in, but you have that in between space where it's just us little humans.
Yeah, right,
And we're the ones using fire to protect
right.
ourselves and to ward off anything that tries to come into that liminal space that we don't want.
Absolutely. And that's where, like, I guess the twinkling lights, like all the Christmas lights kind of came from, was that people would have little lights with them or lights on around their houses. Of course, then it was made out of candles, not electricity. But, and that was to keep to ward and protect yourself, which is so interesting how the little
Yeah.
traditions tie into one another.
Yeah, and that's also the Yule log. Like you add to it for the 12 days and then you burn it. And as long as the fire stays going all night, you're warded, you're safe. But if the
That's
fire
so
goes out,
cool.
watch out.
Yeah. I've never actually made a Yule log, but I'm excited to. And I've been researching how to. So you just get a log, right? Any kind of big
Y-
log. And you could decorate it, right? With traditional things. And I read that you can stick like little notes in it of like your
Yeah,
wishes.
like
And
every night you do a different wish and like add to it.
that's so cool. And then there's
Yeah,
candles too, right? You
yes.
decorate it with, different candles. And it's so cool. I love that tradition. I actually did a really cool ritual last year that I'd like to share with our listeners. And also that I'll definitely be doing again this year, called the 13 Magickal Nights. And it was so powerful for me. I actually got it off of another creator on TikTok, Vanessa, with her phone. I don't know how to credit her, just some random video, but it was such a cool ritual. And I will definitely be adopting it for the future. And so it's the 13 Magickal Nights. She starts it on Christmas, which doesn't make sense to me. I don't start it on Yule, because if you count 13 nights after the solstice, that is the 1st of January. It like times out perfectly, the 12 nights. I'm like, well, of course it should be at Yule. I also believe if you're catching this later, you could use this ritual maybe starting on the 1st as well, January 1st, and go for 12 nights from there, which I think might take you, no, it's probably not going to be around the moon cycle, but either way, I think this tradition is similar to the Yule log where there's 12 wishes or intentions for the year.
Mhm.
So in this 13 magical nights, you get 13 little slips of paper, a jar, a candle, and well, maybe some water in case, for fire safety. You should always have a bit of water near your candle burning. So anyway, so on the solstice, you make 13 wishes. Now, these can be big wishes, they can be small wishes, but if it's a big wish, be aware that it has to be something doable, something that you could actually do as well. Because what happens is you have 13 of these papers, you write down your 13 wishes, you fold them up teeny tiny, and you put them in your jar or cup or bowl, whatever vessel you have. And on each night, you're going to pull out one of those wishes and burn it without looking at it. So on each of the
Mm.
12 nights, you'll pull out one wish and burn it. And on the 13th night, you have one wish left and you have to open that wish. And that's the wish that you are responsible for making happen. So it kind of leaves a lot to the universe. We don't know which of the wishes, it's going to be until the very end. Write down your wishes also maybe in a journal so you can check how the first year I did it, I burned them all and I was like, I think they came true, a lot of them, but I didn't remember exactly all of them. But this year I wrote them and they all came true. It was amazing. And the one I think I told you last year that I opened up that I was responsible for was collaborating with someone else. And it was literally the day that you had asked me to do this podcast. And so it was just perfect. And so I did do my part this year by doing this podcast with you. And I feel like it helped, my good faith, give the universe, helped me with all the rest of my wishes. And I think it's just such a powerful tool, a ritual to use. And again, you can do that starting on Yule. You can start it on Christmas and end up on January 6th, I think, or you can start it on New Year's if you're a New Year's person. And it sets your intentions. It kind of gives you clarity as you're making the wishes. You're giving your intentions of what you want this next year to bring you. So it's just giving focus as well. And then there's a last part that is optional. If you have a tarot deck, you can pull a card each night as well. So the first night you'll pull one card and you'll burn one wish. And whatever that card is going to represent your January and
Mhm.
what either your focus of January is or what January will bring to you. On the second night, so December 21st, you would burn your second wish, pull a second card, and that's going to be your February. And it would go on and on
Cool.
until you've got your 12 nights and your 12 months of the year. So you've got kind of a year spread as well. And you've got your intentions, wishes into the universe, and one that you're responsible for.
I love that. I think I'm gonna add that this year. One of the rituals that I've been doing for years now has been to get a round one of those round ornaments that you can fill yourself.
Mm.
Sometimes they're glass, sometimes they're plastic. Some of them can split open on the side. Some of it's just a tiny little hole at the top. But I take one of those, I write wishes down on a paper,
Mm.
intentions for the coming year. I put that in the thing. I put the year in it. I put herbs like cinnamon and
Mm.
whatever other herbs, bay leaves, all these things. And then I seal the whole thing with wax and then I hang it
Mm.
from my window in my office here. And so I like that one. I've done it with the kids a couple years where they each had their own for the year. Uh,
I love
But
that.
I also like the idea of doing wishes from the universe and what you're responsible for yourself.
I just had an idea. I wonder if we could combine those two. Like, you know how I said you should keep a separate record of, oh, well, no, they're in a sealed glass ornament. Do you ever break the ornament? Do you ever look again or do you keep it year
No,
after year?
yeah, I've kind of collection, but maybe
You've
I
got a
should figure out
collection of
somewhere
them.
to dispose. I don't know where they
Well,
are, but they're somewhere.
so you know what might be fun? Let's make up our own little ritual here. You don't have to follow it, but I think what I might do is use your idea and the 13 magical nights that I do and the paper that I keep with the wishes, I'll cut into slips and put it into the ornament with the herbs, like you said, clove, evergreen, whatever, brings the season to mind, the season for you. I also have my handy Cunningham's Magical Encyclopedia of Herbs here that I love to use for different intentions. So I'll check that and see what herbs I want to put in my little ornament and then seal it like you said, hang it, I don't know, either by my altar or a window, or I might just pack it away like because I have a Christmas tree, so I'll probably hang it
Mhm.
on the tree. And when we pack away our ornaments, I think I'll pack it away, forget about it. And then next year, when we open up to decorate again, that's when I'm going to smash it, open it up and see if the universe
Mm,
delivered those wishes. And then each year we'll do
that's
a new
cool.
thing. Or if it's plastic, maybe I could just open it. But I like
Sure.
your wax idea of sealing it up,
Yeah.
which is like
Mm.
magical, and you can pick a specific candle color to coordinate or whatnot. And
Yeah.
then that way you can
Uh,
see if it happened that year.
mhm. I like that. I like putting it in I like hanging it, but I also like the idea of putting it in the box to see next year because that might entice me to want to go do all of that decorating next year.
Oh, show us your bracelet.
So before we started, I showed you this thing because while I was sitting here this morning, I was like, I'm gonna do something while you're getting ready because it's, later in the morning here than it is for you.
Crystal's
And so I
always
showed
late.
you. I'm always early, sort of ish. I was half prepared. Not have not. But I was sitting here and I made this morning and I showed you this before we got started. It is a resin bracelet and it has needles from a tree that I planted when I was in 3rd grade.
What?
This yeah.
That's so cool.
So this
So
tree
pine
was like,
needles.
yeah, pine needles from a tree.
Mhm.
I got them for Arbor Day in 3rd grade. Like everyone got this, 1 foot tall tree. I planted it in a garden. And of course, like, the garden is long since gone because this tree is now as tall as the barn.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's huge. And so this year when I was back in New Hampshire, I cut some branches off of it and I've dried them in salts just to take out any little extra moisture. And so then I just put them in this resin mold that I have to make bracelets. I still need to like finish off. There's a few sharp edges on it, but like it was a nice way to preserve that tree for years to come, whatever may happen to it, I will
I
still
love
have
that.
some of the needles from it, which I thought was nice. And you could do
That
that
is
with like the tree that you cut down and put in your house if you wanted to too.
That's true, that's true. Pine needles are very magical and have a
And
lot of properties as well. And I believe, it's so important at this time of year to be looking at those evergreens because most of the trees, as we were talking about, go into a hibernation mode, shed their leaves, become barren, and things like that. And I think evergreens are such a symbol of Yule and the whole season, no matter what holiday you celebrate because they are one of the few trees that does stay green. And it's that reminder that life will persevere on, that, life,
and
after darkness, life will come again. And I feel like that's such a important lesson of Yule to kind of embrace is that everything has its season and that death is not to be feared or run away from. It is inevitable and it is necessary as a part of growth to make room for the new leaves, the new growth, to let the dead kind of mulch and nourish the roots while the resting is there. I have my solitary witch deck, and the one card that I found related to Yule is the crone in winter.
and
And so often you'll hear about the what is the maiden, the mother,
mother.
and the
Mhm.
crone. And so those are,
Yep.
the, stages of
Goddess.
a goddess, yeah. And so the wise woman and that we all need to progress. You can't always be in your youth. You can't, always be in the mother stage, but that eventually we all, you know, should look forward to. Not, I feel like, we're so scared of aging in this day and age. We're so scared of, dying that we have forgotten that this is a gift to get to that age. That means that you have so much wisdom in you and so much power. And that it's beautiful to age, not something to be feared or again, run away from.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never really understood the whole like, don't tell anyone your age. And oh, I'm still in my 20s. Like, I never understood like why it was such a bad thing to ask someone their age or like announce your age somewhere. Like, I never got.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I just turned 41 this year and 40, like a lot of my friends had a big problem turning 40. Like it was like, oh my gosh, like, how do you feel? And I'm like, honestly, it feels fitting. I feel 40. I feel like I look 40. These wrinkles look 40. I am the tiredness of a 40-year-old. And so I feel it. I feel it. And I'm okay with it. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just, I feel 40. Yeah, that's me. Like I don't want to be 20 anymore. Although sometimes I do trick myself. Like I don't when I really think about it, like I still feel like the same person I was when I was 20,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm still me. So it's to me, age isn't a really a big deal, but I'm never scared to tell anybody or to, it wasn't a hard pill for me to swallow. I know it is for some
Yeah.
people.
I had my like age issues when I turned like, I don't know, 25 or 26, but that was mostly because I was starting to take kids to preschool and I was like, I'm not old enough for this.
What? That's so funny. That's so funny. I wanna read something actually about Yule. I have
Okay.
this witch's date book, Llewellyn's. It's from
Mm.
2020, but I still reference it because it just has good things about each of the Sabbats, even though the date book, the dates are totally off. But it says Yule and death. On the longest night of the year, the Great Mother gives birth to the sun god. While it may seem odd to associate this celebration of the promise of new life with death, it helps us think more broadly about Yule. Just as Yule is the longest period of darkness, death represents the darkness before the dawn. One of death's themes is endings, such as the end of a year or the releasing of things that are no longer supporting your greatest good. Death can represent a crisis in faith, while Yule is a festival of faith. The sun has not begun its return and, in fact, seems farther away than ever. But we believe the light will return. You can meditate on the death card as you assess your life. Focus on winnowing out what will no longer serve you. Allow the debris to break down, becoming fertile soil for future seeds to take root and find nourishment. Sometimes facing our darkest parts requires courage and a firm belief that we will not only survive, but also make way for new life to grow. And that's by Barbara Moore. So I thought that was so perfect. And that's so
Mhm.
interesting that not only is it the death, but also the birth of the Sun King.
So I actually, like when we were talking about tarot, I actually pulled out the sun and the death card and I put
Oh,
the rest away.
perfect. Oh, that's cool. That is so
Um,
cool.
yeah, so this is my new tarot deck, Balance of Duality by Veronica Stein. So this is a death card.
And it shows
And
skeleton for the people
yeah,
who aren't watching.
yeah, for if you are watching, we've got a human skeleton with a spear through the ribs and then also leaves growing through the ribs as well.
So again,
And
that
then
balance of death and life.
yeah, yeah, like where death goes, like life will come back.
Mhm.
Then I also pulled out the sun card, which is a woman with like that sun being kind of crown and very bright sunlight.
Hmm.
And
That's
that's like
so
the
neat.
rebirth. Yeah.
That's so neat. And
Okay.
my deck have a lot of fairy tales, and this is the White Bear King, which is a Norwegian fairy tale, which I think is so perfect because we were talking about how Yule kind of originated in Norway and things like that. And so this is, representing that change is necessary. And also it says that death of a childhood is important in order to grow up, which I thought was interesting because we've talked a few times about that transition between the magic of Christmas or childhood and then now adulthood and responsibilities. So I thought that was just an interesting how, it's all about transitions, metamorphosis, change, evolution, but also loss. I mean, we have
Yeah.
to recognize that there is loss within death as well. It can't
Yeah.
always be light and love.
And that's why we need that hibernation period to like just mourn that, like whatever that might be. Like, I know it's supposed to be like this insanely happy, like do all the things time, but like
Joyful.
because of that, yeah, joyful. And that's great. Like, if you are joyful this whole season, like every second, amazing.
Mhm.
But if you aren't, like, that's just part of the earthly cycle of like having that inner time that where it's totally acceptable to like to mourn, to grieve, to, grieve 1 year or one cycle or one transition as you move into the next one so that you can have energy and enjoyment once we get to spring. Because I feel like if you're just bottling it all up or like forcing yourself to do everything right now, by the time we get to spring, when it's, at least here, it's warmer weather, you're gonna just be like resentful or angry. Like you have to have this inner, like darker winter hibernation portion to be able to function
Absolutely.
later.
I agree. I agree. And like you were saying, the weather itself really lends itself to staying inside, being cozy, going within, curl up with a good book or whatever, a good movie, and chill, just chill. And,
Yeah.
there's really, I think SADS is like a name, like seasonal
Yeah.
affective disorder,
Yeah.
whatever, like the weather affects people get seasonal depression at this time.
Yeah.
And so if you are affected by that, affected by the weather, affected by just nature pulling you within when everyone is pulling you without, honor your feelings because we can't always be on, like you said.
Yeah. And like seeing it that way makes me wonder like how many disorders or titles we have that's really just our bodies trying to go with nature where society is telling us to do something totally different. So we have a
I
disorder
think
or a name for it.
I think you're so right. I really do. I mean, same with kids, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they have ADHD or they have, and not saying that there's not real, or anything like that, but
Yeah,
like a
totally.
lot of it, I think, is now coming from being a homeschool mom, is that we're forcing these little children who are not meant to sit still in a desk for 6 hours at a time. And then they're like, well, they're so active and they can't sit still. And this is a problem. And you're like, no, this is actually natural for children to want to be up and moving around, and so, but we have to now label it. We have to now medicate them. And again, not to say that there is not actual scientific
Yeah.
people who do need ADHD medication and things like that, but I think it's overly diagnosed these days.
I don't know if it's overly diagnosed so much as just it's one way that some people function. Like there's
Right.
just like a wide range. Like some people it's totally normal to be neurodivergent and some people it's totally
Mhm.
normal to not be. And we
True.
just haven't really created the environment where like each variety and across the spectrum can like really embrace however they function.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's about the environment. It's not about what neurodiversities we do all have. I think it's about, yeah, finding an
Yeah.
environment that is conducive to every kind of person, which is
Yeah,
hard to do, which is hard to do.
it is. Every kind of person in every personal season, every physical season, like, you know, you might have a million obligations this time of year, but like finding the spaces in which you can honor what's actually going on, like within your mind and within your body. because like you can't just in this day and age, like you can't just ignore all of your responsibilities, but you can
Right.
find moments to honor how you're truly feeling.
Absolutely. And that's actually a great kind of segue into something that I wanted to bring up. I'm not sure if you have ever read or done the rituals in the book called The Journey to the Dark Goddess. I
Mm.
know in a group that we were in, it was recommended, and I really went with it. It was kind of my first dive into the underworld, and it's about the myth of Inanna, who is an ancient Sumerian goddess, queen, and she has a sister, the dark goddess, who's down in the underworld, but actually, I don't know if it is actually her, her other half, how
Mm.
we all have a light and a dark half. Anyway, the book is amazing. Journey to the Dark Goddess by I don't know. I'm gonna list it in the show notes though, for sure.
Okay.
Meredith something. Jane Meredith? I don't know if Meredith is the first name or the last name. Anyhow, it has a real ritual where, there's the 7 steps and it goes through the myth of Inanna and then it takes you through the ritual where you literally shed these things to
Mm.
take yourself, because a lot of times when we are forced into like a dark night of the soul, something like that, it's a outside circumstances or events that kind of throw us into the depths of despair kind of thing, and you kind of go through an underworld journey, and it's not by choice.
Mm.
This time, I decided to go by choice, to offer up these things of myself that I wanted to leave behind, to witness the darkness within myself and hear her cry. What happens is Anana goes down there and she just witnesses her sister who is, you know, just crying and writhing in like pain, and so you have to find what's within yourself that needs healing, and you don't shove it aside. Instead, you sit there and you witness it. And when you come back up out of there, like you're a different person. And it's just a really powerful death and rebirth ritual that I felt like I just wanted to bring out to people. I think I'm going to actually do the journey again to the Dark Goddess. And there's one or two other people that have been asking me, or I've been kind of talking with them about it. So we might be doing like a group journey kind of thing,
Mm.
which is interesting. So if any
Yeah.
of our listeners are interested in the book or interested in a guided experience, contact me, email me, and see about the group. So,
Yeah. Title sounds familiar, but I don't think I ever got to that one. I've done a little bit with Inanna, more with Lilith and Hecate, but
mm,
it sounds like a good journey. I'm definitely all
yeah,
for going into
yeah,
like the worst things and just
hmm
sitting there, like going into
hmm
it on purpose in your own like
hmm
safe space instead of
right,
like, whoops, I don't know when this
right,
came up and where.
definitely, definitely.
So, are there any new practices that you're gonna do this year? 'Cause I know of one that I wanna do this year for Yule.
Share it with us. I want to hear.
I have meant to do this a couple of years and just never got to it, so maybe this will be the year. But you take an orange, and I love having oranges or, like, orange peel and stuff, like, in all my spells. But you take an actual orange, cut it in half, take out all the actual, like, fruit that you need to part, and then you actually make candle in the orange. So, like, you put the wick in there, and I've already got, like, the wicks and all that stuff. But then you put the wick in, you pour the wax in, and then you can put, like, star anise,
Cloves.
cinnamon, like, cloves, yeah, like, all that kind of stuff on the top of the candle, and then you can burn the candles, and I thought that would be I mean, I imagine it will smell amazing, but, like, also a fun craft to have on the altar, like, throughout the house and fire safe places.
Right.
Um, obviously, but, like, in my kitchen as well, or, like, if I'm working at my
Right.
altar, have it on my altar.
Yeah.
But I thought that would be a nice ritual for this year, and so maybe I'll invite either the kids to make their own varieties or meet up with a friend and do it or something of that nature.
That's really cool. That sounds like so much fun. I've seen something similar, and I actually didn't know if it worked though. It was hollowing out the orange peel, like you said. So you had the little orange cup, and they literally just put olive oil. They poured olive
Yeah.
oil in the orange peel, and then no wick, no wax, just lit the olive oil, and it like flamed in the orange peel. And I was like, what?
Huh.
So I don't know if I'll try that, or I like your idea better. Sounds a little safer because I was like, that's just a whole bowl of oil on fire now in an orange peel. I don't know about this. Like, it seems a
True.
little dangerous. So we'll see if I do that one. But your orange
Yeah.
idea did remind me of something else I saw, which are
Mm.
pomodoro balls. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but you just take the orange whole and take cloves and stick them in a pattern, either like a spiral pattern, because spiral is so big right now. Or it could be, it's so funny. Somebody just texted me and it popped up on my computer and it said, I just got the three of wands and the something something tarot card. It's so funny. People are just texting me randomly about their tarot pulls. I love it. I don't even know who it was. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The Pomodoro balls. So some people put spirals on it, which is like, a symbol of
Mhm.
the sun or a symbol of the cycles of nature. And another thing I saw is that you can actually place the cloves in the shape of runes, different runes for
Huh.
protection,
Yeah.
for joy,
Makes sense.
wunjo, and then I drew the Hierophant pepper.
Forgot about this until you talked about that. But the funny thing is, I've done that before,
Oh,
but it was when I was a kid, like way
really?
before I even knew that witches were actual real people. Yeah, I think it was like, do you remember the kids show Zoom? It was either Zoom or like American Girl or something. It like
Okay.
showed directions for this. And so I did that when I was a kid.
The cloves and the orange?
Yeah, the
How
clothes and the
cool.
orange, like,
How
way
funny.
before anything, so I've been
That's
doing this
so
for a
cool. And
while, I guess.
yeah, isn't that neat? Isn't it so fun when you remember things that you did as a kid that were like magical or ritualistic and you're like, "Oh, I just knew. I innately knew." And now that we're raising kids of our own, we can see them do it. And of course, we encourage it because we know what's happening. But,
Right.
it's so interesting. So
It
great.
is, and, like, it just
Uh,
reminds you how intertwined everything is because calling it pagan is, some people will frown upon it or, like, run away from it scared, but, like, everything is so intertwined now of, like, all of our practices. Like, whether
absolutely.
you're pagan, Christian, witch, secular, like, whatever you are,
Hmm.
like,
And I
everything is so intertwined.
Yeah, and pagan, I was just listening, I think, we watched the same video about how pagan is just at that time when Christianity was new, pagan was everything other than Christian, just
Mhm.
anything other than Christian. And we were talking about how Yule, whoever was the Norse king or Viking king at that time, I forget who it was, like had gone to visit England and he converted to Christianity and brought it back. And that's when Christmas and Yule became, you know, basically
A
the same
thing.
holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, so
and so
intertwined.
yes, it's all so intertwined. But I agree that I feel definitely more connected to Yule and the traditions and nature
Mhm.
based rather than the consumerism of Christmas. And
Yeah.
whether Christmas started as, the birthday of Jesus or whatever, like, I don't know, when when it bridged over to just straight up consumerism, like, that just doesn't feel authentic. It's not about joy, it's not about giving
Yeah.
thanks, it's not about birth or death, you know what I mean? It's just about presence.
Yeah. And not even, like, nice, thoughtful, handmade presents, it's just like, you must buy a present for everyone here.
Right, right. Absolutely, it's just
Mhm.
money, money, money.
I
Mhm.
for okay, I know our episode's going long, but that just reminded me of another, like, Yule story because, like, my mother-in-law always gives us socks, like, wool socks,
Mm,
and, like, those are always, like, super helpful. they're always like the socks that last forever. But anyways, so there is the story of the Yule cat. Have you heard of the Yule cat?
I've heard of a goat,
No.
but not a cat.
Okay, so this is a giant cat that comes out on the eve of Yule. And if you are not wearing your new Yule pajamas, you will be eaten by this cat.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's some serious business. I mean, well, and we haven't talked about like the Krampus and all of that,
No,
which
we
is a
haven't.
whole
I know.
other, kind of scary thing. Like I said, when the sun god dies, like the night is free
All
for
things come out.
all the things, right? Right. And
Yes,
so,
so
yeah,
make
that's
sure you're wearing your new pajamas or don't go out.
okay. Wow. Well, good to know. Good to know.
And on that
Well,
note, I think you're it.
I saw a giant goat that they
Oh.
light on fire, I think. Maybe I'm making the fire
Mm.
thing up because I'm thinking of Burning Man. But anyway, there's a giant goat, and that's how the relation to reindeer and Santa came about or something like that. I don't
Mm.
know. I should have
So
read it more
reindeer
carefully.
was yeah, I don't know, but I haven't heard the burning goat, but reindeer were
I could
from
be
Odin.
totally making it up. Oh, Odin. I love
Um,
Odin. So tell me more.
they were I forget the name of them, so I can't remember the
Okay.
name, but they were six-legged, I believe,
Oh, yes,
and they
steeds.
pulled, yeah, his steed,
Yeah.
Odin,
But
which of
6
course now
legs.
they've
Yeah.
come down to like four legs, but yeah,
Right.
they
And
came
antlers.
from
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. And speaking of Odin, really quick, I know we said we're going long and we're gonna stop, but runes, I have to mention that runes are another option. If you don't want to pull a card every day
Yes.
for the 13th night ritual, you could pull a rune for each of the months of the year as well for your focus. And that
Yeah.
would also, yeah, just be great to decorate on your pomodors or in any of those things. Simmer pots, I know I talk about them every festival, but they are great. And especially right now, they make your house smell so good. You can put in
Yeah,
cranberries, cloves, cinnamon, pine, anything that really, and you can use moon water or snow water if you have snow from recent
we
snow.
do have
And
that.
yes, we do not. And yes, so I just wanted to mention those are also another way to bring in some festivities for
Very
Yule and the
nice. Yeah.
season. And to just respect, I just want to encourage all of our listeners again to honor and respect how you're feeling in this season. If you are feeling go, go, go and want to do all the things, great, but carve out some time later in January, February to recoup and rest. And if you're not feeling it right now, honor that and hold
Mhm.
up some boundaries and tell people, I'm not doing 15 holiday parties this year. I'm doing one, and
Yeah,
just stick to it. And that's just it. Honor yourself.
for sure. Yeah, and as always, if you ever are feeling like you need help, like reach out to someone, whether it's a counselor, a therapist, or a good friend, or if you just need to talk about whatever darker emotions are coming up, reach out to someone, find
Yep,
some help, and no shame in that.
absolutely. And if you don't know who to go to, our email address is in the show notes and we're here for you.
We
All
have a
right.
few resources here and there, so
Yeah. All right. Well, take care, everyone. And you too, Ash. And I cannot
yeah.
believe that the next time we'll do a podcast will be in 2024 for our last Sabbath in bulk, which also I can't believe I forgot to mention that we have this amazing free
Okay.
printable wheel of the year. I just colored in Yule with my kiddos this year. And you can see that all the different wheels, and Ash has hers there in her grimoire where she writes
Yeah.
down also what she did and can always reference it. But you can see that our next Sabbath is in bulk. And then we're back full wheel to Astara, which is when we started the
We
podcast
are.
almost a year ago.
Crazy.
So it is crazy. Actually, in bulk was when we first formulated our
It
ideas and
is.
planted that seed because it's all about the seed planting. So,
Mhm.
anyways, or planting seeds. So it will be exciting to talk about that in what is it, February with you. All
Soon.
right. Till next time.
Alright,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Your Magical Life. We hope you enjoyed it. Drop a comment and let us know what you liked and what you'd like to see more of.
We love hearing from our listeners and featuring your most requested topics in our Q&A section. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and don't forget to check the show notes for bonus content.
Send us your stories, questions, and comments to magicallifepod@gmail.com.
And we'll see you next time as we continue to explore, create, and manifest more magic into our daily lives.
Until then, I'm Crystal.
And I'm Ash. Take care and keep making magic.